And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, WNBA and LA Sparks fans, with a little heavy guilt performing the song How You Like Me Now. We, of course, not own that, of course. That's to the respective owners of the group. With that, folks, welcome in to the LA Sparks 365 Network, your 24/7 365 comprehensive home of the WNBA and your two-time WNBA champion, Los Angeles Sparks, on what is a freaky, fresh, funky, and turned-up Saturday night in both America's finest city and in Anaheim, California. The first of a WNBA triple header tonight. 3 shows coming your way, 10:30, 11, and 11:30 this evening, alongside Chris Romancy from the Anaheim Studios up in Anaheim, California. Cal Miller joining you here from Studio 171 in San Diego on the two-man show of record that we like to call around here the guys with the petition. Chris, good evening. Major stuff to talk about tonight, Chris, not involving brawls and arrests or sexual harassment, man, but 3 things involving the network, Chris. Other than that, how's it going, dude?
Nothing much. I'm just now pumped up, even more pumped up now since what you told me, and now I'm ready to go. June 14.
Now, folks, we will be sending out a few tweets in the coming few minutes here about what is the major announcements. Again, we have 3 confirmed dates for these functions that we had 2 in stone, and we're working on 1, but with Chris getting confirmation and me getting confirmation today, we can certainly bring you folks that news in about 3 minutes when the first press release on our Twitter handle gets released out to you folks. But, Chris, obviously, man, I know that it's been something that we've talked about, though, dating back to 2013, how I know, man, that at the time I was a 9-year vet of watching women's professional basketball, or just watching women's basketball in general, Chris, how after we had watched a Galaxy game on May 26th of 2013, and about 5 o'clock that night, some team called the Los Angeles Sparks was playing at Staples versus some team called the Seattle Storm, and thus began adding another team to our favorite sports teams, but also, of course, it got me a chance to revive my, admiration of Candace Parker as one of my favorite women's basketball players of all time, man. And now, man, that we've gone from there to now we've come to 2014, Chris, where, these 2 random buffoons in this hangout made some petition that saved the Sparks from possibly leaving Los Angeles or going to the Bay Area that got over 1,000 signatures, man, and now that I've gone to 2 games. But now, Chris, I can sort of share that with you in a couple of weeks. But again, folks, we can't share that yet because, again, we got to wait until 10:35 when we can really talk about the first day. But, Chris, I know, man, that, I've been here 11 years covering women's basketball at every capacity, and with me influencing you into watching the sport, Chris. I guess, how far has time come since watching a game, the home opener 2 years ago, in 2013, all the way for the whole season, then now, Chris, of course, 2014, the petition campaign, plus the Network Foundation back in February, and now, man, in a few weeks, man, we might be going to a game. So I guess overall thoughts about how far we've come so far in 2 years as WNBA supporters.
Just unbelievable ride, and yeah.
Chris, I told this to Sabrina White on Thursday when we went out for lunch up in Walnut. I said, it's kind of funny, how the world of sports can take you to so many different places. And I can recall a time how in the same sort of sequence of events, Chris, how I attended the Point Loma Nazarene women's basketball home opener. How not only, Chris, got me hooked up with a good friend of mine, and Jessica Scorza, whose number is amongst the studio wall of fame here, but also how it got me a job. So it's sort of like, the people you make these connections with, that you'd be amazed at, where the world of sports really does take you. With that, folks, with it now officially being 10:35 p.m., if you can check your Twitter feed, you will see a press release just released right now by the network. It's confirmed, folks. There you go for the first of 3 upcoming LA Sparks 365 host meet and greet night, folks. Confirmed today by myself and by Chris today. You've seen us through your computer screen every night. Now you get the chance, folks, to see us live and in person. That is right. You will have the chance to come out and meet the 365 host myself, and Thing 2 in Anaheim for the first of 3 upcoming LAS 365 meet and greet nights this season. Which of course will be the first one will be held. Your first chance to meet, greet, and hang out with the guys with the petition will be held on June 14th at the Sparks home opener at 2 o'clock when the Sparks take on the Seattle Storm with tip-off at 2 o'clock. Now, folks, you are all encouraged to be out at the Star Plaza entryway because if you're in our group photo, which is going to be taken outside of Magic Johnson's in front of Sparks owner and former Laker great Magic Johnson, that group photo, folks, will be becoming the official network Twitter handle header for the entire 2015 season. So please make your plans to get to the Staples Center as quickly as possible. So again, to recap, night 1 of 3, Sparks and Storm opening home opener, June 14th, 2 p.m. tip. Well, Chris, what more can we say, man? We tried very diligently last year to put this event on last year. I was only able to go because of other conflicts of interest that he had going on last year. But now, Chris, thanks to your great friend, Celine Martinez, who's going to be taking you to the game, of course, and my amazing dad, who is now a loyal WNBA fan as much as I am, Chris. Now, man, we can get the gang together for the first of 3 upcoming events, Chris. Your thoughts about this, man, are what?
Just very awesome. Just laughing like Crystal did.
So again, folks, one tweet here from Crystal Thomas on Twitter. Of course, her normal tweet of Soki. So of course we will let that one go. But of course, folks, again, once more, the first of 3, folks, and we're doing this 3 times this season. We will again spread the word about the next one coming up in 3 minutes for the next one coming up later in the season. But again, Chris, I know, man, that this was something, man, that we that we were talking about nonstop all last season. Again, Chris, again, a reason why the petition was not made for us to, again, was to go to a home game as a unit. But now, Chris, now that we got things worked out, we got transportation, tickets were taken care of weeks ago, and for my case, was taken care of on Thursday with Sabrina. But again, Chris, this was something we tried super hard, more so than Chris. I think we put more work into a home game, more so than the petition, in my view, because in regards that, yes, I have favorite players in the league. You had to find a few favorites on both LA and some other teams across the league. But again, Chris, how much time do you think, man, that we actually spent putting this event together? Probably more so than putting together, a lineup for a show lineup, or Chris, maybe even more work that we put in other than maybe the petition. Chris, what do you think?
Just a lot of work to do.
A lot of work, folks, but again, the first of 3. Again, we have 3 of these events, folks, coming up this season. One is as a unit. We are working on getting Chris to the other one in Los Angeles, because again, we do know there may be one on the East Coast, perhaps. We'll see what comes across your Twitter feed in about a minute or so for the next one. But again, folks, the first of 3 upcoming events, again, will be held on the Sparks home opener, June 14th, 2 o'clock tip-off. But again, all fans that are going to the game, you are encouraged and you are invited to not only hang out with us, but also, again, get in a group mob shot, again, that will be becoming, well, Chris, we'll up the ante. It'll become both the network Twitter handle and the official cover photo for the Sparks Fans for Life group on Facebook. So again, Sparks and Storm home opener, also now designated as a official, also now mentioned now as a official 365 meet and greet night. One tweet from Celine, who's taking Chris to the game. She says, "Hey, yeah, this year is our year, and we shall get to the finals, and it's my honor to take Chris to the opening game." Close tweet. So again, thank you very much, Celine, for taking that time out of your day to transport one of our 2 guys up to the game this year. Again, so again, folks, the first of 3, once more, again, just to reiterate again once more, Sparks and Storm home opener on June 14th. Now, folks, coming across your Twitter feed now is the second of 3 events. Now, this one was set in stone way before we got the home opener on lockdown, and that, once more, will be the second of 3 when the Sparks take on the New York Liberty on July 22nd at 7:30 p.m. Now, again, that'll be a night game for that one, and again, you are encouraged once more to meet up at the Star Plaza entryway for that game, and we can meet up there and everything else included. One tweet here from Crystal Thomas who tweets, woot woot, about night 2. So, but Chris, I mean, this one, by the way, folks, again, depending if Chris can join in, he will, of course, join us. Right now, it's only a one-man show right now at this point in time because I'm taking another friend named Chris, but, of course, he's my colleague at Point Loma for his birthday on July 22nd. And, of course, Chris, you knew I was going to do it, man. I'm not going for New York to see Lambeer or Isaiah Thomas. Of course, I'm going to see number 2 on the Wall of Fame up here, which would be San Diego native Candace Wiggins. Now, Chris, I know that last time, Chris, when I went and saw New York play, I struck gold because that was when I did finally see Candace Parker in person after I saw her on my birthday last year, but finally got a chance to talk to her for a bit after the game and, of course, got autographs. So, of course, Chris, depending on your situation, you can join us, but, of course, man, your thoughts here, man, because I know, man, that last year when we did the event, it was kind of under the carpet because I had traffic problems getting up to Los Angeles, but also, man, I don't know, Chris, are you feeling something in the air where, hey, look, Cal went to see New York last year, he met Candace, will it happen again? But also, Chris, will it be the double down effect? Will it be both seeing Ace and Ice both on July 22nd? What do you think is the early indication right now?
Steve Candace.
So, yeah, I can go and, again, express my gratitude and how grateful I am that, again, as we know that Candace, both Ace and Ice, both took the time again during the offseason to chat things up with me over the offseason. So, again, folks, the second one now confirmed, again, Sparks and Liberty on July 22nd at Staples Center. Tip-off at 7:30. And, again, you are, of course, invited to attend the event, of course. Well, of course, the game's one part, but also if you do want to rub shoulders with me again, meet me once more at the Star Plaza entryway on Chickering Court where the festivities will take place again. It's Chris Morrison, man. I want to kind of get the stuff for the meet and greet done prior to the game because we're all going to be scattered across the arena. Either I'm going to be behind the bench or on the floor, for one of the games I'm going to and everything else included. So I think, Chris, we got to get everyone at one central location, not make it so difficult, and above all, Chris, not during the games. I know we all want to sit there and watch and see how we do, so I guess, Chris, I know that we tried to do it during this game last year. Didn't work out too well, but I guess, Chris, I think, though, we need to, get everyone involved at one point, one specific location, Star Plaza, Magic Statue, and we can go from there, I guess, for the game. Do you agree with that, or would you rather do more during the game, or at least, Chris, maybe thoughts on stuff at halftime, perhaps? What do you think?
Yeah, before the game, and then maybe something during halftime, maybe.
Yeah, we'll figure that out, folks. But more so, we want everyone there, one central location for the event again, which is again Star Plaza entryway at Magic Johnson statue. One more tweet, Chris, from Celine, who tweets, "Hey, Chris will be there for the games, and we shall see how it goes." Yeah, so that's about it. Is we're going to be there, and we'll just see how the first official, how we have the entire broadcast team here again for the first one. So again, folks, recap the first two because the next one is coming out in about 55 seconds. So again, first official event, June 14th, Sparks and Storm home opener, 2:00 p.m. tip-off. Second one confirmed for you folks, July 22nd, Sparks and Liberty, 7:30 tip-off with myself at that one. But again, depending on the situation, of course, you can always have Chris come out once more again at this point in time. Now, again, folks, as you may have heard me talk about late last night, again, now, the trip to Phoenix right now is up in the air right now, so we will let that one slide. But, of course, coming up in about, about 25 seconds, we'll have our third final event will be released to you folks at this point in time. Again, as we know, now, again, as I said earlier on, folks, I will be on vacation towards the end of the season back in New York. I'm seeing my family in Connecticut. But, of course, Chris, there's one arena I've always wanted to go to, and I haven't had a chance to, Chris. Other than Staples Center, Chris, that arena has always been Madison Square Garden in the heart of New York City in New York, Chris. And coming across your Twitter feed, folks, for you East Coast viewers, if anyone up there is alive and well and awake at 1:45 in the morning, if you are an East Coast fan and, hey, you live in New York like Alan Barkoff does, yeah, we're taking the show, folks, to the East Coast in September for one game at Madison Square Garden when the New York Liberty will take on the defending Eastern Conference champion Chicago Sky. Tip-off set for 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. So we'll have that for you folks. And again, Chris, vacation's one deal, man. But I had to get to MSG, Chris, and see Candace Wiggins play at MSG. But also, Chris, we got to, Chris, reach out to those people that do stay up late. Like Albert Lee. Who's one of our great friends from Switchfield, Chris. The people that, do stay up, Chris, if they even do, that are up at 1:45 in the morning, Chris, watching us, getting their WNBA fixes. So I guess, Chris, it's only fair, though, that, with me going on vacation, Chris, I do pay back our East Coast viewers, Chris, and above all, man, the East Coast fans that, did play a role in saving the Sparks over the offseason, Chris. How much, Chris, will this help the network going forward, knowing that, someone that does live in San Diego and covers the Sparks, but for one deal, going on vacation, yes, but also, though, taking the time, though, man, to go out there and show his appreciation for all the other fans across the league, though, specifically, Chris, in New York.
Very great, since the East Coast and New York help save the Sparks in LA.
And of course, Chris, as I admitted yesterday, Chris, I'm an avid / pretty moderate Liberty fan, of course, with the two teams that, started this league back in '97, Chris. It's only fair, man, if I'm going back east, to really, show my gratitude, appreciation for the people that, Chris, that may watch us. I mean, I know that, we've got another, that we had Celine, who's been tweeting to me nonstop, and we appreciate and love the interaction tonight on this program. But Celine, you can save it for our next show where we do read tweets and emails coming up next at 11 o'clock, which is Sparks Fam. So you can save those for the next show. We'll definitely get to those as well, but don't worry. But anyway, Chris, I think, though, man, this is something that needed to happen. I mean, because we know, man, that, the East Coaster, Chris, if anyone does watch us, I know that we do get, our inner circle, between Shorty and Crystal, and tonight we got Celine watching. We've had, Sabrina White watch. We've had John Kegley watch. But, Chris, the only part of the man is it's the West Coast. We're all still awake and, either turned up for some reason at 10 o'clock at night, man. Where the East Coast folks, Chris, they're stuck in bed at 1 o'clock in the morning and, or Chris, in Alan's case, he may be out and enjoying himself at the club, perhaps, having a good time with some friends. But, Chris, I know, man, that we love our West Coast viewership, Chris, but we've got to get some of our East Coast friends involved, though, man. So there may be, folks, one more, depending on my schedule. I will be coming home on Labor Day Monday that I might be able to fit one more game in Connecticut where my family is from, so that might be one more we add as well. So Phoenix and Connecticut up in the air right now, but again, folks, confirmed, set in stone. 3 of them in stone, set and ready to go again. Sparks home opener, June 14th versus Seattle. Both of us will be there. Again, both of the guys with the petition will be at that game. And right now, July 22nd right now is a solo slate with me being there against New York, and of course a solo slate to New York for the 365 show happening over there. Now, Chris, some tweets quickly. We will get to some small talk here, Chris, before we move on to Sparks Fam Night at 11 o'clock. Chris, Celine had one quick question. She says, what are your thoughts about the new coach and seeing the positivity on our chances of getting another championship? Chris, I know that specifically, Chris, once the Sparks got ousted, we had talked about how great Penny did at filling in for Carol Ross, Chris. Then, Chris, when the coaching search got underway, we all were kind of, I guess, shocked when the Sparks announced that they got Brian Agler. Now, Chris, Brian has a tremendous pedigree, as we talked about, Chris, during January, once we were working around the entire off-season recap, Chris. So again, Brian is a perfect fit, I think, for Los Angeles, Chris. I mean, he did a lot of great things with the Lynx as their first head coach in franchise history. Went to the Stars briefly, Chris, and went to Seattle, and of course won a championship in 2010. Chris, your thoughts here, because again, man, I know that it was kind of, shocking that the Sparks got Brian Agler out of all the candidates that they had up in mind. So, Chris, your thoughts about Brian Agler coming into LA this year, and what are LA's chances going forward for the 2015 season? Again, Chris, knowing that there will be no Debovic, no Parker, no Tolliver for at least the first 7 to 10 games of the year.
I think very great since he won a championship in Seattle. So his presence, winning a championship, will be great in LA.
Chris, when you bring in a guy that's got so much success like Brian does, I mean, he's got, a lot of wins. He's got a championship in 2010 with Seattle. I think that Yes, we may have been a bit shocked about him coming into Los Angeles, but Magic said, that I liked his style and his offensive mode. But again, Chris, Brian is not real heavy on playing rookies. Now, Chris, that might spell a little bit of problems perhaps for the draftees, like Sierra Burdick, like Andrea Hoover, so on and so forth going forward, and even Crystal Bradford, Chris. So we'll see what really does happen. And Chris, Celine had one more tweet as well to us, or to me she says, your thoughts on Griner and Diana about Griner and Taurasi not playing. Now, Chris, you know me very well, man, and I told you this repetitively, that once Diana did sit out, you knew it was going to start a very, very bad trend. We had her sit. We have Candace Parker sitting out. What I've been told, Chris, Parker's going to miss the first 10 games of the season to rest. And then, Chris, Janelle McCarville of Minnesota says she's not going to play. Sylvia Fowles is holding out in Chicago. And, of course, we have Griner and Johnson pop 7 games. So, Chris, it's been a very, very up and down, and I would say, Chris, a very chaotic WNBA offseason with training camp starting tomorrow across the league. So, Chris, your thoughts about not seeing Taurasi, no Parker for at least 10 games, Fowles holding out in Chicago, no Janelle McCarville in Minnesota, and, of course, Griner and Johnson being suspended. What are your thoughts?
Just very terrible, and just going to be a weird start of the 2015 WNBA season.
Chris, there's one Southern California theme park I've not been to in my life yet, sadly, and it's Six Flags Magic Mountain, and my buddy Christian Cecil is going to take me for my birthday in a couple of weeks. Chris, I know that we were on a wacky roller coaster over the offseason last year with the entire petition campaign, but Chris, this is way worse than what it was last year. I mean, if I thought, X2 was extreme at Six Flags, Superman probably takes them all. And I feel like I'm on that type of roller coaster, Chris, because we've gone up, we've come down, and up and down at well over 100 miles an hour in 5 seconds, and I've been weightless for 7 seconds because we've had a lot of stuff going on over the entire offseason between having, Diana sitting out. Then we've got Parker sitting out 10 games. We had Johnson and Griner suspended 7 games. So, Chris, it's probably been a very, it's been a very chaotic one, but also, Chris, Laurel Richie, man. I mean, she's had her hands full 2 consecutive years. First with the Sparks situation last year, and now, Chris, she had to deal with the domestic violence, with DV, man. So I guess, Chris, it's almost like, what's next, I guess, for the league? I mean, because we've had, we've got 3 players sitting out. We have someone holding out against their team, and we had 2 players getting popped, Chris. So I guess, man, what is next from the span of tomorrow until June 5th when the Mercury raised the banner at the Talking Stick Resort Arena in Phoenix next year for the first game of the season, I guess?
I don't know. Probably something happening next.
What it is, who knows, folks, but it's been a very, very wacky season. Celine, Chris, replies back. She says, honestly, I feel that Penny didn't do a good job. She's not coaching material. My pick would have been Lisa Leslie. Chris, we all agree. I mean, Chris, I think you and I immediately said, where is Lisa Leslie? I know that I said Coach Dave Miller and Lisa Leslie, Chris. Chris, can you imagine if Magic Johnson maybe became head coach, owner, man? Oh, my goodness gracious. Hello. That would have raised a few eyebrows there. But I guess, Chris, in spite of Penny not having any coaching experience, I mean, you can't hold that against her. I mean, she's a GM, and she's not on the floor every play. She's not really knowing, she doesn't really know, Chris, what goes on 24/7 on the floor. I mean, she's up in the executive box with Magic, and sort of seeing things from a spectator's view almost, Chris. And Chris, for her not having any coaching experience, man, I'll take 500. I mean, Chris, I had no coaching experience in baseball when I came out of high school, man. And I still led an 8-year-old team, Chris, to finishing 2 games over 500 in my first time ever coaching, Chris. So you do not have to have coaching experience to be a good coach, Chris. Your overall final thoughts about how Penny Toller did, Chris, again, man, remembering no coaching IQ coming into the season after Kara Ross got fired.
Very great. At least having like 500 average, and at least got Sparks to the playoffs, but didn't get over the hump, though.
In spite of the Sparks having their 14th playoff appearance in league history, of course, the Sparks ousted in 2 games by the eventual champion Phoenix Mercury. Again, folks, to recap tonight, boy, oh boy, we're just getting started here, folks. I mean, if you thought we were, hyped already, wait till a little bit later, folks, because coming up next at 11 o'clock, we've got the #1 show on the network. So Celine and fam, keep sending in those tweets. Send us some IG photos, some emails, some live Q&A. We've got Sparks fam coming up at the top of the hour here in 5 minutes right here on your home for the LA Sparks and WNBA. This is LAS 365. We have Sparks fam coming up next right after this quick timeout.